this is not the place you start from when you have a grand vision of planting a church and reaching people and changing Kitsap County. But that is where we started. That was our home. That's where we began. And we're here now. We're not there, thank God. You guys wouldn't even fit in there. We're here now. And the reason we're here now is because people before you were faithful to God's mission. People prayed, they served, they sacrificed, they gave. And what we have received here, what we have inherited, is the fruit of their legacy, right? They got us here. We have received this. And stewarding a legacy is a really important thing to think about. We are building upon what those who came before us have built upon. We are continuing in that legacy. We are stewarding that legacy. And as stewards of it, we want to leave a legacy for the next 20 years, for the next generation. Someday people will look back at this space and go, can you believe one day we were here? And how did we get to this next phase? There'll be a story about a meeting on April 26th of 2026 of a group of faithful Christians who came together and were united in a mission to steward the legacy they have received for those who would come after us. So what we're talking about tonight, we're going to talk about plans, and you're going to see some images and drawings, but this is about mission. It's about God's mission. It's about generational faithfulness. It's about stewardship, and it's about building upon the legacy that we have received that others have sacrificed to make a reality. You think about when your family is growing, right? At some point, you need a bigger car. I know a lot of you are there, right? You had one kid, now you have two kids. Okay, now you need a different car. When your family grows, at some point, you need a bigger house, right? These are all just parts of managing growth with a growing family. Well, we, by God's grace, have grown, and we've grown significantly since 2020. And part of that means we need a bigger home, not just a home for the family that is here, but we need a home for those who will become part of this family in the coming years. So this is absolutely about mission. And I want everything we talk about to be understood in that context. We have received a legacy, we are stewards of it, and we are building upon it together. What you're going to see for the most part this evening is general plans for what this new space is going to look like. It's not going to be very different from what we showed some of you in October. This is not the point in the project to talk about colors or carpets or decor or any of that. Here's where the walls are at and the doors are at, and this is generally what we're thinking at, okay? We on the same page there? Okay, so that's what you're going to be seeing. And some of those details, those will certainly come later, but that's not where we're at today. We want you to have a general idea of where we're going. So I want to start with the image of what the finished product is going to look like when you walk into it, when we're done with this project. That is what Corumdale Church is going to look like. Yeah. Some things you can see here. This, by the way, is this building over here. Because of some lease issues, we had to move our attention to this building. It's actually a much better building for us to work with. So what you're looking at is that building over there. And you can see all the glasses in the front, the glass windows with light, natural light that is in there. You guys notice that? Those large entryways. We have a main entrance that goes right into the sanctuary. On the far right is another entrance that goes into the sanctuary. That second tall entrance is a direct entrance into the vestibule, which will run right alongside of that sanctuary. And then that entrance on the far left, if you go into the office space, you're going into that entrance. So that entrance is staying there. But that's our goal. That's our vision for the finished product for our church. That's where we want to go. That's where we're headed. I'll show you some of the drawings in terms of the internals of this space and what it's going to look like. Yeah. Who was that? Yeah, there you go, Lisa. There you go. So that is, we'll start on the far right here. That is going to be a combination of desperately needed storage area. Any of you who have worked to move things for special events, you know that everything we have is stored upstairs in the building in the far corner over there. And so we have almost no on-site storage in our current building. So that is going to alleviate that. There's also going to be a bunch of tech stuff in that room that's on the top of that image. But most of that is going to be storage, tables, chairs, whatever we need. And it'll have direct access into the sanctuary for that. You can see the setup in there is very similar to what we showed you in October. The main thing I want you to know about this is that we're looking at a minimum seating capacity of 500 seats in that space. And I say, yeah, it's awesome. So we have just over 300 in this, including the balcony right now, to give you some perspective. So we're looking at a minimum of 500. I say minimum because there are some options that we have that we're going to be thinking through. This image shows collapsible stadium seating along this back wall. That's an option that we are considering. We actually took a team of people on site to New Life that has this setup, and we got to sit in them and walk in them and look at them. And so we've got some real world experience with that. But even if we don't do that option, we go for chairs only. We're probably looking at a minimum of 500 seating capacity, which means we will be able to go to 2 services immediately, which will be absolutely fantastic, okay? So that's the main space. The next image, right? You can see that vestibule that runs alongside of the sanctuary. That's a gathering space for between services. It's very open. These are open ceilings all the way to the top. It's actually, I think it's about 2 feet taller than the ceiling in here because of the way that it is constructed. And then next to that vestibule, we have basically what is a lobby area. So during services, if we've got a kid that needs to step out for a moment, you can actually go into the lobby, and there's sound barriers between the sanctuary space and that vestibule. There'll be some resources to help you with that. There's basically 2 main things this is the main floor of what will be that foyer space. There's 2 main things that you're seeing. One is a space for the restrooms, and the other is a space for a very large kitchen. Those are the main things that we're doing. Yeah. Yeah, certain people are excited. On the back side, we have a number of classrooms that are available for us, but you can kind of see the general layout there. Vestibule, lobby area, bathroom, very, very large kitchen. The next slide is the upstairs of that space. So that space that is currently our office, if you've gone to the office space, that is going to be a 2-story space, which means downstairs you're going to have the bathrooms and the kitchen. There's going to be stairs that will take you upstairs, and that upstairs space is going to have some open workspaces. There's going to be offices for pastors and staff as needed, and then a supply closet, which you can't see up there right now. But everything for the office is going to be upstairs. And the plan right now is, you can't really tell with this image, but that is going to be open to the downstairs. So when you're upstairs, you can see everything that's happening downstairs. We're trying to connect those spaces as much as possible, even though they are going to be on 2 separate levels. So this is where we want to go. This is what we want to build. We've been working with Bob from Blue Architecture. He's a Christian guy, a guy who did serve as a pastor for quite a while. He understands our church. He loves our church. He gets what we're trying to build. And one of the things that we very much appreciate about him is he is keeping this project as simple as possible. None of this, very little of this requires actual engineering. A lot of this is just moving walls. It's a fairly simple project as far as that goes. There are some significant construction parts to this project, obviously. So I want to introduce Adam Brossard. Adam, you want to come up here? Adam has been helping us with the construction part. Great name. He's been in on some of our meetings with Bob and with our staff and the team, as well as Jeff Lojudas, who is there. He's been present with us. And so I've asked Adam to kind of present, here's, in terms of construction stuff, the plan. So, you good to go?
Good to go.
All right.
Yeah, Jeff, I don't want him to go unnamed in this evening. His knowledge in the commercial construction world is priceless. So he's been a huge factor in where we're at today, which isn't really that far yet, but we got a long ways to go. So my name is Adam Brossard. I am married to the lovely Nicole Brossard, and we have 3 boys, Winston, Theodore, and Franklin, who's 8 months now, I think. He's probably the pterodactyl. He likes to screech during church, usually when John's praying. It's the best time. I serve on the financial team. I try and keep up with Ben Salo and his knowledge in that area. I've been a member of the church for 8 years, just about as long as I've been married to Nicole. So you can do the timeline math on that one. But yeah, I come from 13 years of commercial construction, mainly in the cell tower world. So if you guys need a cell tower built, let me know. No, I'm out of that industry and have moved on to real estate, I guess you could say, real estate ownership and management of real estate that I own. So what else do I got? Oh, in commercial construction, we managed multi-million-dollar projects as well, so similar to what we got going on here. So also a pilot, and also like long walks on the beach. So, sorry, I'm married, ladies. All right, so we can start with our first slide, starting with, you didn't talk about planting the future together. So legacy, planting the future together is our campaign theme motto. But starting with the construction schedule, I took this picture off of Google Maps. So you can see the building next door, like John said, that we are going to be transforming by God's grace into an amazing church and family meeting space. So that's where it starts. So to give you a rundown, this is just a proposed schedule. So we have the potential to start way sooner than the dates that I'm going to put up here. So it starts in December of 2026, but it has the potential to start even earlier, and then has the potential to start even later. So over the last couple weeks, I did a photo shoot with some of the staff at Coram Deo with AI's help. So that is pretty small lettering, so I apologize, but I will read most of it for you guys. But December 2026, again, proposed schedule. So if we start in December 2026, it'll go for about, construction time will be about 6 months. But December, we'll be starting with final design, final construction drawings. If you see CDs, that's construction drawings in hand, which is a huge task, getting the construction drawings completed, along with the permits in hand. Ordering all long lead items, so electrical gear, panels, lighting packages, the commercial doors and glass. We will be moving our stained glass over there as well, which you couldn't quite tell in the picture. HVAC equipment, depending on how much extra or swapping out HVAC equipment we have to do. AV and production equipment, sponsored by Nate Sherman. So he's not going to buy all that stuff, but he is the brain behind it all, and I'm sure that it's going to take quite a while to amass that list of equipment that we need and get it all ordered. So moving on to January 2027, here's Ben signing some contracts. I did have eviction notice on there, but we did not. I took that out. But Apria is the main tenant over there. And we'll obviously, per Chris Ray, we'll give them at least a 60 days notice if they're still in that space to vacate that space. And that will free up the space for us to come in demo. So the school also meets in the offices at this end of the building. And so we want to give the school as much time as possible to be in that space. So 60 days starting in January. So that'll carry us into March. But at that time, we'll also make sure all the subcontractors, So it says subs, but subcontractors onboarded and locked in contractually. So that way they know what date to show up, and hopefully they will meet that contract. So moving on to February 2027, checking in with all the subcontractors, making sure they're locked down on their start dates, confirming all deliveries of materials and equipment, that they're going to show up come March, that everything's confirmed, on track, etc. And then Apriya moves out by the end of the month. So that's Roger saying goodbye to Apriya, the moving trucks. Thanks, Roger. And then we move into March 2027. The demo. The demo can start. He's got a lot of time between now and March to get his biceps that big, okay? So, he's got a jacket on. You can't tell. You can't tell. Lots of pre-construction meetings will be happening in March with the county, with subcontractors, with the fire department, et cetera, the fire marshal. We'll get some dumpsters delivered, I'm sure, for the demo, for John to go in there and demo. We'll start the demo. Jeff LeJudas, I'm sure, is going to be a huge player in that realm. He loves to demo and has equipment to do it. So just make sure you stay out of his way if you're in there. I said I would show up in like bright orange and hard hats and safety glasses, everything, so he can see me. We got deliver materials. Potentially, we might have to like crane some HVAC equipment up to the roof. If that needs to happen, that's a good time to do that as well. And then start on MEP, which is mechanical, electrical, and plumbing. So only in that sanctuary space. So we haven't kicked our elders out of that office space yet, or Coram Deo Academy. We're trying to maintain that, hopefully, and again, proposed, but hopefully for the month of March. And then potential start, I don't know if John talked, he did talk about it. That space at the far end on the loading dock area, that is just an addition that's getting bumped out off of that building. So nobody's in there right now, and if Apriya's gone, then we could potentially start on that if the schedule allotted for that. So we can't do a ton because of remob fees during that time, so you can't really have your sprinkler guys come in, your electricians come in and all that stuff, because then they're just gonna have to remob again in April and May and et cetera, which is added money. So we don't need to do that. So we're gonna get as far along as possible in that month while Apriya's out maintaining the elders and the school in that other space. And then come April, Brandon gave us permission to give the school the boot in April and modify some of this space in here to allow Coram Deo a couple more months, the academy a couple more months to take over this space. But we'll demo the office spaces / the new classroom areas, which will be the new classroom areas, the foyer and vestibule areas. We can start on rough-in framing, the classrooms, kitchen, bathrooms, the foyer, storage, etc. Start on the MEP, rough-in, sprinkler relocation. So obviously the whole building will need to be sprinklered, and it is right now, but a lot of that's gonna have to be reworked with that new, the new double-decker offices and such on the second floor there. So we'll need to do that and make sure sprinklers are all down in our super non-commercial kitchen. Big kitchen, but not commercial, if the county asks. Complete all AV low voltage rough-in audio, so Nate's gonna have a whole plan for us. Nate's gonna have a whole plan for us of running all of our pathways, and he's gonna have cables everywhere throughout the building. We went to the New Life building to check out those the stadium seating, and they had speakers outside, so we need speakers outside, you know? Yeah, so we'll be figuring out pathways with that, and then Aaron will be helping us. No, he won't be, but ready the rough-in inspections. He's scratching his head, making sure that we're all checked out on those. So you guys didn't know Rustin was licensed in sprinkler installation, did you? All right, then come May. Don't worry, he's certified. That's why he has safety glasses on. More inspections will come in May. Insulation, drywall, mud prep for paint, complete the loading dock storage areas, stairs to the second floor offices, start on the exterior awnings, lighting, doors, window layout. Derek's cutting in a round window, apparently. Build the platform / stage. The county asks, it's a platform. We're toying with the idea of making it movable, so that way it skirts a lot of the ADA rules that need to happen with that. So we'll still have a ramp if needed, but we won't always have a huge ramp coming up onto our stage, most likely. And then cutting the new exterior doors and windows. So Derek will be there, somehow standing on a ladder to do that. So, come June, Brandon's going to be in there, completing our MEP, installing toilets, HVAC, fire suppression, sprinklers, etc., hot water tanks, installing the new doors and windows, completing the outdoor awnings, the inspections, and then painting everything. So that would be when the toilets would go in. Thanks, Brandon. And Kim is dialed in. It's pretty crazy what AI can do these days, but it even gave Kim a nice Coram Deo shirt and for the glory of God and the good of people. So that's June. Moving on to July. Nate's going to get in there. Testing out all of the AV and productions equipment, getting the super lights going on, the fireworks, the big smoke, the big fireballs. John has said no smoke. We can't have smoke. No fog machine going for him. New Life had one, but we don't need to talk about that. Stage platform install, carpet, flooring, trim installation in both the spaces. Electrical trim, lighting install, completing the kitchen install, potential bleacher install, or the stadium seating in the back. We need to get into that space and look a little bit closer. Jeff and I are going to get in there and take a look, but there might be a big sprinkler riser right where we want to put those that stadium seating, so that could potentially get in our way. Start the final AV installation and tuning it up, so that's what Nate's doing right there. Start the productions, install TV, speakers, lighting, etc. Finish the exterior lighting, the signage, and then the HVAC balancing, making sure that we stay nice and cool and not hot and sweaty like we used to be in that Grange building. So, yeah. Come August, so we're getting close to completion. So Krista she's going to be compiling the punch list, getting everything together so we can potentially gain occupancy into that building. But she's going to start the punch list and corrections, landscaping, final touch-ups, finalize AV and productions with testing and tuning, final inspections, fire marshal inspection, which those are very large tasks, getting that final inspection and the fire marshal. Deep clean everything because it's all going to have a layer of dust on it, I'm sure. Installing the chairs, decorations, installing the office equipment. Thanks, Linz, for installing that printer there. Hopefully we can remove the dumpster at that point, and then, God willing, we will gain our occupancy permit at the end of that month. Then come September, Miss Nettie will be there serving his people. Our lovely donuts, of course, top pot, as usual. But God willing, September 5th is that first Sunday in September, and that would be our potential first service, provided we started in that December 2026 and not sooner. And then I did put in asterisks, you got to read the fine print, but schedule buffer, plus or minus 1 or 2 weeks. We will have a Q&A time, so if you guys did have any questions, feel free and do that at that time. But move on to another slide, the timeline. So for those that I lost during that don't maybe have the attention span or were lost in John's biceps, it goes from December to September. This is, again, proposed, but you can shift these dates any way you want, and most of the tasks or the scope of work will remain the same. So planning Final construction drawing permit, long lead items starting in 2026. Then come January, you're dealing with contracts, your notice to APRIA if they're still in there. February, you're prepping, the tenant's moving out. March, demo. April, you're starting on your MEP, rough-in, your AV equipment. May, drywall. June, paint. July, flooring, trim. August, big task, final inspections and touch-ups with Krista's punch list. And then we'll move in September 2027. So the goal is to not have our elders or staff do any of that work over there, just so you guys know. I just thought it'd be funny to bring them into this. So the goal is to make sure subcontractors are doing all of that work. And the guys and gals that do that every day are going to be the ones doing that because they're probably going to do it the quickest, the cheapest, and do it the best. So we will do that. And then the last slide, I just put that picture of what God is going to bless us with, I'm sure of. In church, this is like such an amazing opportunity. I know we've been looking for a building for years. How long? All of the years we've been looking for a new building. So this is a huge answer to prayer and a huge opportunity that I know our elders and our church is not going to squander. So I'm looking forward to it, and I'm so encouraged seeing pictures like this and talking through construction schedules with Jeff and other elders. And yeah, I'm just full of excitement and anticipation for this project to come. So thanks.
I think everyone wants to know, Adam, how did you get my arms to look so small? Thank you. Okay. So this all sounds great, right? You see the pictures, you see the images, man, the seating capacity, thinking about mission, dreaming about the future, hearing the plans, that 9 month, I don't know about you, I just thought this was going to take a lot longer than 9 months. So that 9 month time frame is incredibly encouraging to me. But we have to get there. We have to get there. Seeing the images and talking about it doesn't make it so. And so I want to talk to you about what is our plan to get from here to there into our new space, and specifically financially, how is it that we go about doing this? So we've communicated with you that we anticipate this project being about $2 million to complete. As we've talked to some other people who know their stuff and work in this field, they think that is a reasonable figure. So that is our number. We have not talked with contractors to get specific figures, but this is our target for what we want to raise, $2 million. And so in order to do that, this fall, we are going to be launching our legacy campaign, in which we are going to be coming together as a church to make this vision and this plan a reality. And there's going to be a couple moving parts to this campaign. So what we just completed was 3 weeks talking about finances. We have never done that as a church family ever in our history. And it's something that we needed to do, not just because we have a project coming, but because it was an area that we needed significant growth in. That series was going to happen whether or not there was a building project coming. Okay, so we've started that. We want to prime the pump. We want to get people's minds and hearts looking forward, but we're gonna come back to this in the fall. And as you came in, you got this handout, which has the image of the building that we want to build, and there's also, it says save the date. So there's some dates that we want you to know now. One, so you can be praying about these things, but also so you can be planning for these kind of significant moments in this project that we're going to take on together. So the first is a 3-week midweek series. This is going to be our midweek discipleship. It's going to start on September the 8th, and it's going to be 3 Tuesdays, the 8th, the 15th, and the 22nd. And this is going to be us working through as a church learning about legacy and mission specifically from Scripture. So those are Tuesday evenings, just like they are now, 6 o'clock to 7:30. But we are asking all of you to make this a priority, right? We know that you can't do this all the time. That some of you can come to our midweek stuff that we do, Westminster Catechism. We're asking, give us these 3 Tuesdays as a church. It is so important that we are on the same page and united moving forward. This is one of the ways that we can do that. So that midweek series is going to start on the 8th of September. It'll go for 3 weeks. We're going to work through legacy and mission. And at the tail end of that, we are going to have a 4-week sermon series on legacy. 4 weeks that we're going to be dealing with legacy and mission. And I'm telling you up front, week 2 of that series is the week where I am going to ask you to make commitments. Okay, so you know this is coming way, way far in advance. On week 2 of the series, I'm going to ask you to make a significant financial decision, a sacrifice, a contribution to this mission and to this project. And we see that sacrifice kind of looking in 3 different, maybe 4 different ways that will look for you, and maybe a combination of ways. One, we're asking for one-time gifts. A one-time gift that will go towards the cost of the remodel and the renovation of the project that we're doing. We anticipate that those gifts are probably things you've been sitting on for a while, whether you've been planning for this or you're trying to figure out how to steward something God has given you. It's those kind of gifts, one-time gifts that go towards this project. The other way is going to be through pledges. And pledges are basically recurring monthly gifts over a 3-year period of time. So this would not be in place of your tithe. This would be in addition to your tithe. This would be a sacrifice that you or you and your family make, and you make that pledge and you fulfill that pledge over a 3-year period of time. Every month you make that payment. That goes all the way, gets us into, or pays for that construction project. We are set up currently to receive stocks and cryptocurrency. If you want to donate in that way, you can do that. And there are some tax advantages for doing that. If you have stock and you sell the stock, you're going to get hit with taxes. If you donate the stock to us, you don't get hit with the taxes, and we get to receive all basically that you're giving. So we are set up to do that, and there'll be more communication in the future and how you can do that if that's what you want to do, but that also is an option. What Adam just laid out is about 9 months of projects, but our financial campaign is going to be a 3-year campaign, meaning we're asking for commitments of recurring monthly gifts over a 3-year period. It's really unrealistic and unlikely to think that we're going to come up with $2 million in 2 months. Now, if God does that, that's awesome. But we want to plan. We live in the world as it is. We want to plan according to that. And so we are most likely going to be paying for this partly in cash and then partly in a short-term construction loan from a bank. And there are banks that work with churches specifically on these type of projects. And the idea is that the pledges that we make to give monthly during that time would be paying off that loan. And when the pledges are completed, the loan is completely paid off and taken care of. There is another option that you may be in a position to consider. I don't know that. And so if you are, please let us know. But another option would be if you're in a position to make that loan, so that loan isn't going through a bank, but a member of our church would make that loan at either a competing rate or a cut rate or no rate, whatever that is, so that we're not working with a bank. That also is an option. So if you're in a position to, maybe you can't give $1 million, but you could loan $1 million, that's an option as well that would keep us from having to work with the bank. But either way, we are going to be having some sort of a loan that will be paid through those pledges that will be submitted. So in that second week of that series, we're going to ask you, you're going to have a pledge card. We're going to ask you to make a commitment. And then the final week of that 4-week series is going to be October the 18th. And we are going to close that campaign season of asking for the money on that night. And we're going to have an all-church service / party. And Grace Point has super generously offered for us to be in their space. I asked Pastor Barry, I told him what we're doing, that we're trying to raise money. We want to have an all-church service where we can party and do food trucks and do the whole thing. We need some space. I said, can we rent your space? And so he called and he said, you can't rent our space, but you can have it for free. I said, thank you. He said, yeah, thank God for that. He said to tell you that they're cheering for us. So that's incredibly encouraging to hear from him. So that final week will be October the 18th. We will have an all-church service at Grace Point at 4 p.m. And that service will be followed by a party with food and stuff. It'll be a fantastic time. We are hoping to do baptisms that night as well. And so there'll be communication as we get closer to that. But all of that information is it's right here. And so we're telling you now so that you can be preparing for it. You can have it on your calendar. You can also be praying for those things. And I want to share one last thing before we bring the elders up here. Raising $2 million is something we have never done. We've never tried to do it. It sounds quite daunting to me. I don't know about you, but that feels like a lot. How are we going to do this? So I want to just share some encouraging stuff. We have not started the campaign. We have not started asking people to give towards this. We have already seen some incredibly encouraging signs that have come in. And without solicitation, we've already seen 10% of this budget come in towards the remodel project. So that's already here, which is incredibly encouraging. And as I see that, our story is one of God providing. That's our story. We wanted these spaces. You remember we came in the middle of the summer and walked around the parking lot in, I think it was in July, and we asked God, you've got to do something. You've got to give us wisdom. And in 48 hours, we ended up with the buildings here. That was something that God did. When he wants to part the Red Sea, he parts the Red Sea, and we have to walk through it. And that's been our story. Think about the image I showed you when we started of where we started as a church, right? That was crazy. And everything that God has done to get us into this space, all the things that God has been doing in our church and through our church, looking at the giving that has already come in without even really publicly asking for it, all of those things make me very confident that God is in this. He has a plan. There's a timeline to it, and he is actually going to provide for this, and we are going to get to be witnesses of that. And as we participate in this, we're going to get to build something beautiful together that people are going to inherit, and they are going to build on it in the future. We get to plant the future together. So I'm incredibly encouraged by it. The whole process has just been incredibly encouraging. So I hope that you feel that. I want to invite the elders up, and also Adam, come up. And Adam, actually, I have a question for you. Next time you AI stuff, could you AI a beard on Kim and Aaron?
I'll put that in my AI notes.
All right, so we're going to do this, and then we're going to go outside and pray, old school style. So, questions? Katie.
Has the building refinance gone through, or what's the status on the refinancing?
The question was, what's the status on the refi of the building? So, in order for us to make that refi happen, we have to have 3-year leases signed in each of the spaces over here before the bank will say, we trust you. So right now we have 2 of those spaces that are under 3-year contract, and Chris, who's our manager, is working to get that 3rd space under contract. And once that 3rd space is signed under contract, then we can go back to the bank and say, here you go, let's move forward. Yeah. Good question. Yes, sir.
So, you said that we've raised 10% of the building fund. That is, $10,000.
I think Katie behind you is trying to tell you something.
200,000.
That correct.
That's unbelievable.
I believe that's unbelievable too. I think we all agree with that. It is true. It's very encouraging. Yeah. Josiah.
You gonna work a new parking lot layout with that new front dormer and everything going in? New parking lot layout,
Um,
new front entryway and all that kind of good stuff?
When the time comes, we'll look at, I don't know.
are you on?
I'm on. Check. With the dormer that's coming out, that awning that's coming out, are we going to rework the parking lot? So we'll see when we get dimensions and such and get construction drawings, but we might have to bump some spots. But I don't think it'll affect the parking. That awning in particular.
Okay, it looked like in the image, like how far it was coming out, just thinking like the way parking is set up, so like people are blocking it and people are driving up, so just wondering.
Yeah, and there's a bit of space, if you look, buffer space, like landscape space that sticks out. So we'll see when we get some CDs what that looks like. But we don't want to affect the parking at all unless we're gaining spaces. That's the goal.
Apartments are gone in the back.
Yeah, part of the plan.
Yeah.
Chris.
Sometimes when you do large projects, the county has a requirement for impact fees, and I'm not sure what that amount is. Have you, I know we talked to Bob about that a little bit. Have we, do you know anything about impact fees, for the project?
We're not that far along yet, talking with the county, so we still need to get some final renderings from Bob, start talking to contractors, get the construction drawings designed. So if you think about it, you get 500 plus people in that sanctuary, it's gonna need a lot of HVAC. I don't spec out HVAC equipment, so you gotta bring in a contractor designer to design the whole HVAC equipment. None of that has happened yet. So once we start in that process, then we'll start talking to the county and see, because they'll have some regulations as well that we will have to meet as far as HVAC, so.
Stephanie.
So, the school is a ministry of the church, right?
Yep.
What's the plan for the school? Because right now, if we're getting kicked out mid-April or at the end of April, like, what does that look like for us?
Yeah.
Let's see, there we go. We're trying to figure out a way to use multiple classrooms in this facility, or this space right here, for that 2-month period. So it's still a work in progress.
Basically, modular moves to over here.
The modular classrooms, that's the idea so far. There would be a plan, of course, for how to do that, but in this space, the classrooms that are over there being in here. I know.
The warehouse classrooms. Yeah. It's a work in progress, and it's a little bit of a Jenga puzzle where we have to have access to drop in, like Adam was talking about cranes and HVAC. We can't do that stuff in the roof when kids are there. And so, right? And it's like, it's not ideal to say, you know, the last 2 months of the school year, we would have classes in here instead of over there. But what that gets us in the long run is this space entirely committed and devoted to the school. So, yes, absolutely.
And,
Yeah.
if you saw the projected dates, majorly take over the summer months, and that was on purpose with the school in mind.
Yeah.
What happens if it's community and youth, like, that's over there? Well, I guess youth is over there, right? Where does that get into the, is kids community still over here?
Yeah, so one of the things that we'll have to figure out is how does kids community use this space? So this will be in terms of, like we did a walk through Brandon and, is Travis here? thought I saw Travis. He's an architect who builds education spaces for K through 12. And so we walk through the space and we're identifying where we can put permanent classrooms in, which would be in the upstairs and the balcony, and put extra rooms in here. So we want to do that, and then there will have to be some space that we're able to use for kids, community, and youth until we're at the second part of the remodel, which is remodeling that and building over there. And then after that, we take over the entire hill with all the buildings down to the road. But yeah, but the space won't have to be temporary like it is right now. That's the goal, is to have it permanent, and then we would be able to use it for kids community and youth community. Does that answer the question? Okay.
Ben.
So the question was, in fall of 2027, if we have that space completed, would those classrooms be available for the school to use? The answer is yes. Yeah. Yep. Oh, okay. Sure. We'll go boom, boom, boom.
So we talked about parking and lots of spaces. So we're going to have like 2 services in that space, which is great and awesome. How do we handle the parking aspect with having that many more cars here for the 2 services? What are kind of the long-term pictures for that?
We're going to have a robust shuttle ministry. I mean, honestly, we're even looking at like buses. So,
Parking ride or something?
yeah, we have permission to use that parking ride as much as our heart desires.
I envision like the airport shuttles, and they open the doors and you come in, you put your bags up, whatever. So, yeah,
Food service.
we'll take tips.
A worship lead for the bus ride, with the,
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
This is my shortest worship song ever.
Along the same lines, Stuart, when we've done events like Easter or Fall Festival here, we're shuttling off site and we're studying that, because that's where we kind of get the test. Does this work? What are some of the issues? Like we've realized if we do that, we have to have security on site there to make sure, because we had some crazy run-in at Fall Festival or like with the cops. It's like so we're learning this as we go. So when we get to the point where we implement it, we should have it dialed. Yeah.
Yeah, will there be a similar campaign for remodeling more permanent TI work for the school in this space? And then, like, is there probably not further along in the future, but is there a timeline for that as well?
The timeline for the remodel of this
Building out
space?
this space for CDA.
Yeah. Yeah, so again, Brandon and I met with Travis to kind of talk through some of that. And we're trying to identify when can you do that during the school year, because once school starts, it's really hard to get into the space and start doing construction. So we had discussed options of maybe doing some of that through a Christmas break or an extended Christmas break, and we can put a couple rooms in. But we want to finish this project first, because we don't want the county involved in too much all at the same time. And that was recommended, like complete this project first, then go to the next one. And a lot of what we're looking here in terms of remodeling this space, it's basically putting back walls that used to be there. So it doesn't include sprinklers or air conditioning, heat, any of that stuff. Those vents are already there. But when Brandon and I met with Travis, he was like, ask those questions after this is done, because you don't want them in your hair necessarily. So once that's completed, then we'll be able to focus on doing some of this. And the stuff that we want to do here is fairly simple compared to that. Good question. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, the question was, what do we do with baptisms? And that actually came up in our planning meetings. And so because we're trying to maximize seating in that room, we're not going to have a permanent baptismal set up. On the Sundays that we do baptisms, it'll be similar to how we do them here. We'll take out a row or two if we need to and set up a temporary baptism for those services, and then they'll be put away the next week. Yeah, great question. Stephanie.
Is the construction going to affect the kids being outside at all?
Potentially. I would say working on the sanctuary side, no. But once we start tearing into those offices and stuff, it could potentially, because we're going to be cutting a door in that side. I think there's already a door over there, but we're going to be cutting a door in that side and doing some other work over there and working up on the roof, so stuff falling and things could be an issue. So, but when it happens, we will keep that in mind. And the goal is to not impact the school as much as possible. So that's it's a good thing to keep in mind with that space.
We'll get hard hats for all the kids.
Yeah. Safety vests, hard hats, safety glasses.
Vaughn.
You said you'd be able to go to services immediately. Do you know what time those
Yeah.
Yeah.
Vaughn wants to know what time the services will be. 7:30 in the morning and 11:30. No. We have not landed the plane on that. I think we probably have a general idea, and it's probably the idea is the times that you guys would guess, but we haven't landed the plane on that yet.
There are going to be a bunch of apartment buildings next door, so hopefully we'll keep that in mind when picking those times. Yeah. The house right here I just saw yesterday was for sale, so if anybody wants to live right next to the church and wake up to worship music.
You also would need to park and grab a shuttle.
Yeah. $450K, I think it is. So.
All right, any other questions? Construction, money, Heiner.
What's the general concept of the bleachers versus just using that space for chairs? And we've got a balcony here, so there's again the possibility of putting a balcony in that area. Maybe it'll be just future, we're going to use it, but maybe the ivy is in there or whatever. So has that been resolved, or why use bleachers?
The question is why use bleachers, and we haven't said this is what we're doing with bleachers. So it is an option that's on the table, and the advantage of bleachers is, one, it increases your seating capacity, and I will say this is more of an aesthetic, but the bleachers make a much better viewing experience in the space. And when we went to New Life and looked at their bleachers, I mean, you guys were there. You can say what you experienced. I didn't anticipate thinking this was much better, but it is a much better experience to be in the bleachers and to look at the stage from an elevated position as opposed to doing this or trying to have screens so that people in the back are able to see. But the main thing is that it increases our seating capacity in a way that keeps the space incredibly flexible. So once we build a balcony, we're stuck with a balcony. And it's actually quite expensive to do the balcony because you need sprinklers on top and on both of those levels. And that costs quite a bit. So number one is seating capacity. We want to maximize that as much as we can, wherever we can. And then also it keeps it flexible in terms of how we use the space. Those bleachers, is it 2 feet? They basically,
Yeah, I looked about that. Yeah.
they're
2 to
retractable,
3.
so they can be brought all the way in, and they take up probably a 2.5 foot footprint, which means the whole space would be open. If we want to do a church family meeting, you've got space for tables galore there.
And that's hundreds of chairs that we don't have to move.
Yeah. So those are the advantages of it. There's also downsides to it. It's not a perfect solution, and so that's something that we'll have to talk through, figure out. But
And-
that
We didn't really talk about it either. These are not like gymnasium bleachers. They're padded. They have a nice back. There's more leg room than you guys have right now sitting on them. So they're quite comfortable. And the ones we saw were 9 years old, and they looked pretty much brand new. So
They were more comfortable than their main chairs at New Life.
Yeah.
for sure.
All right, other questions? Nate?
Just as a follow-up point on that, the bleachers also add quite a bit more room than just having chairs. So there's the viewing area, but it's also, there would be more capacity with the bleachers.
Yeah.
To answer, as far as wide bleachers versus just chairs and whatnot, the bleachers would give us more spaces.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, ma'am. Nicole?
How would it happen with like our Pine Prayer praise and family meeting type of things? Would we do those outside the sanctuary now, where would we be, if we're not using chairs, or even if we are, would there be more permanent places for those kinds of activities?
So the idea is that we would have, can you bring the picture up, Nate, of the sanctuary? Do you have that available? The one that shows the chairs and the bleachers. So there would be a combination of those chairs on the main floor, and then those bleachers up against that back wall. So those bleachers, again, will retract to about a 2.5 foot footprint up against that wall. And all of that space can be rearranged with tables for something like Thanksgiving Eve or church family meetings or whatever. And we'd be looking at, this is about approximately almost twice the footprint of this room right here. Yeah.
And the storage right there is where we could put those chairs, so we're not lugging them this way and that way and in the foyer and then back in.
And we could probably get rid of this storage container back here, free up some more space outside. Oh, sorry, that's a classroom. Yeah, my apologies. Just leave the door open. That's HVAC.
Pauline
You're good.
just volunteered to make that her permanent classroom, so great. Thank you. Okay, Dante.
So that storage bump out, is that only gonna be as wide as the current loading dock, or is that gonna be bumped out all the way to the width of the current parking lot?
No, it's not going to occupy.
I know how much stuff is up there,
Yeah,
and that loading dock doesn't seem very wide.
it's how deep the loading dock is, but the entire length of the side of the building. So it's quite a bit of square footage.
And I don't want to overspeak, but I don't think the goal is to get rid of the storage up above the distribution company, right? Rogers hangout area?
2F.
If we can get everything here,
Yeah.
that's bonus. Yeah. Did I answer the question, Dante? Okay. Okay, Michelle.
Can we put that picture back up of this with the bleachers and stuff? I have a question.
Yeah. Can you put the bleacher?
What are the three things in the middle between the bleachers and the seats?
That's a productions stand. Yeah. There's heated seats.
Food service.
There's a jacuzzi.
And we didn't talk about it either, but there is a couple columns in there. So you can kind of see those black lines maybe halfway up. So we're going to design the seats accordingly to hopefully avoid those, so it won't have a huge blind spot. But those have to stay there.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
You talked about the viewing for the bleachers being optimal for being able to see the stage. Will the main floor be at all sloped or anything for viewing?
The question was, will the main floor be sloped? And it'll be just like this. It'll be flat. And the reason for that is, one, cost. And we want to be able to use the space for other things, like our celebrations, where no one wants to eat on a table like that. So it'll be totally flat.
No
You could
meatballs.
shim it, yeah.
Yeah.
It's got a little squeak. Okay, we got maybe one or two more, and then I want to go outside, and we're going to walk the parking lot and pray. Can you put the prayer points up there? While, if you guys want to write these things down while we're getting these last couple questions answered, and then we'll go out. Yes, Terry.
As far as we want. We haven't picked a design on them, but you can pick different slopes. And the ones, we didn't measure it, but the ones at New Life, 30?
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe 30 feet out, 25, 30 feet. But you don't have to extend them all the way. And then my thought and my recommendation to the elders was to pick ones that are a little more sloped, because they were not very sloped at all. And so pick ones that were a little more sloped, so that takes up less of floor space. You don't lose seats, you just make your steps a little, like the steps were like this long, and I don't think that was totally necessary. It was like, kind of like stepped up, not one step like this, so I don't think that was totally necessary, but we haven't dived into that as far as what slope ratios are out there, but we know there are steeper ones available, so we're trying to take up least amount of space while gaining the most, while still making it climbable. Not a quick Everest every Sunday, so.
Heidi.
How many more $1 million do you have to raise to recreate the Notre Dame Cathedral? I'm just kidding.
Okay.
I don't know the answer to that.
She wants to recreate the
They just rebuilt
Notre
it.
Dame.
They should be able to give us that figure easily.
Yeah.
All right, I thought there was one more hand that went up that we didn't get. Is there, going once, going twice? It was what?
I was gonna ask a joke.
Oh,
Considering, putting up like a drum cage.
so I want to refer to the meeting when I said we're not talking about colors or details right now. But honestly, Drew, Nate is already working on all that. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
New Life has one, and Nate and I discussed it at length, so.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know the guys that serve communion over there would appreciate that, probably.
Nate asked me about electronic drums, and I threw up in my mouth a little bit.
I did vomit.
Got you, Kevin.
Kevin,
Got your back.
do you have your confined space certification? We might have to get you one if we do that. There we
Yeah.
go.
Cage-free drummers.
Free range.
Free range. There we go. Okay.
Tani.
Last one.
Good, because I will end it on this. I noticed that it starts in December, and there was such lovely AI work. Can we please create a calendar that can go out to everybody? 'Cause that was lovely.
You guys want a calendar?
All right. I don't know if you guys are ready for this.
It's a pastoral fundraiser.
Yeah, there we go.
Fundraiser?
$100 a calendar? All right.
One of those calendars.
When we get the schedule, I'll see what I can do.
Wow. All right, Tani, spicing it up. Okay, if there's no more questions, we got the prayer points, okay? So these are the things that we're praying for this evening, right? We're asking for God to give us a heart for mission and evangelism. That's why we're doing this. We're not just doing it for the people who are here. We're doing it for the people who will come here in the coming years, and that will not happen without us being focused on mission. So we want to pray that God will give us a heart for mission and evangelism. We're praying for favor with the county, which is not always easy to work with. We're asking for favor with contractors. There's scheduling. There's so many things to navigate with that. And then also the inspectors, that they would like us and cooperate with us as we do this. And then the last thing is just praying for God's provision for the resources to do this. Like I said, we're already encouraged by things that have come in. There's going to be sacrifices that have to be made. Like, we're going to have to do that, but we're asking that God would bless those sacrifices, that he would prepare us for that. I think of the story where Jesus takes the couple loaves and couple fish and he feeds a couple thousand people. He can do that. He's in the business of doing that. And so what we have to be faithful to do is to bring the loaves and the fish that we have to him and ask him to bless that. So that'll come in October. So we're going to go outside. We're going to walk around this parking lot, grab a couple people to be praying through these things with. We'll do like maybe 2 or 3 laps. And then we're going to gather in front of the Apria space right next to our offices. And Pastor Derek is going to close us in a time of prayer. And of course, we'll have to sing the doxology, right? All right, so let's go out, let's march, let's pray, and then we'll close in a moment.